Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of the review. So let's continue on with where we left on, shall we? If Batman Forever took the series a step backwards, this one took a 10 million step backwards!
The word worst has been used in every sentence to describe this movie, such as the worst Batman movie of all time, one of the worst superhero movies of all time, and finally, one of the worst movies of all time. It was a disastrous bomb critically and financially, ruining the franchise and postponing any future plans they had with the series. Even the actors expressed their embarrassment for being part of the movie. Everyone has pointed out the mistakes and made fun of it. The bad nipples, the ice puns, the characters looking like toy figures, the similarities with the 60s show. From what was once a dark, popular comic book movie series, Batman and Robin killed comic book movies for a while and left fans only with this representation of their hero. Even when I saw it as a kid, I found myself pretty bored half the time compared to Batman Forever.
Later, as I grew older, I started noticing something really wrong with this movie. And then I realized I just had in my collection a really bad movie. Yeah, still got this bloody bastard in VHS and all, and subtitles and all. You kids will never know how this thing works. I had it since Christmas and I still have it to this date.
So, what is it about it that failed in such a big proportion? There's not much to say about the plot since there are a billion of those. Now George Clooney is Batman and Chris O'Donnell as Robin must face more villains in town. One of those is Mr. Freeze, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, who threatens to freeze Gotham as a blackmail to find a cure for his ill wife, and Poison Ivy, played by Uma Thurman, who plots on world domination. In the long wait, the dynamic duo get a new member of the group, Alfred's niece Barbara, who later turns into Batgirl, played by Alicia Silverstone. The problem with the movie is that it wants to be equally appealing for kids as for adults by giving us so much that in the end it turns out to be nothing. The editing structure of the movie comes out so convoluted. It goes from action scene, followed by subplots, then more action scenes, and then more subplots, then even more action scenes, and then even more subplots, and it just turns out to be a complete unfocused mess.
Pick a damn story and just go with it!
To add more injury, the dialogue doesn't do justice to the actors' performances. With all due respect to George Clooney, he is okay as Bruce Wayne, but unfortunately, he was not good as Batman. From the way he looked in the movie, he almost seemed very uninterested, which you can tell for his lack of attempt to hide his voice when he's on the suit. Chris O'Donnell comes out pretty whiny and not as likable as the first one. Alicia Silverstone is very standard but not interesting. She's supposed to be Alfred's Sneeze and yet doesn't sound the British accent. But isn't she supposed to be Jim Gordon's daughter? Well, since he was completely useless as any cop in this movie and they needed a new sidekick as quick as possible, sure, why not? I'll give the movie a little credit with Arnold as Mr. Freeze. They at least tried to make him more complex as someone who does all of these bad things for his wife and not just be another villain that wants to kill Batman. But in the hands of the wrong direction, he's turned into another over-the-top villain with 98% of his lines being ice puns. I know we're supposed to feel sorry for him, but he comes out so laughable for how much fun he's having that you wouldn't be able to have a serious talk with him since he might even drop an ice pun on every conversation. At first I thought Uma Thurman was the lesser of all evils, but watching her again, she's as painful to sit through for her dialogue being 100% cheesy liners. I never found her interesting to begin with. Her motivations were bland and she was only there to be a seducing stereotype. Bane? Oh, I hated Bane. I hated him when I was a kid, and I hate him to this date. He was so bad that I thought he was a made-up villain for this movie back then when I had no knowledge that he was an intelligent villain who broke the Bat's back. And when I found out, oh, I hated him even more for how little resemblance he had with the comic. He was just there to be an idiotic bodyguard. Thankfully, Christopher Nolan would redeem him a little bit more. Batman and Robin is not a faithful adaptation to the comics. The big reason why this movie failed was, after the big success of Batman Forever, toy markets were pressuring the studio to add their Batman toy designs in the movie. That's why you got your flashy, colorful suits, the bright neon Batmobile, and anything you see that can possibly be resembled to a toy commercial. The point being, this was a quick money-making movie given no time and no effort to put into the plot or on the characters. While the other Batman movies took about, 3 years to finish? This one only took 2 years, and it suffered greatly, reducing it to a kid-friendly show that bear more resemblance to the Batman show of the 60s. Maybe they were trying to avoid the campy show, but that's how it turned out to be most of the time. During the hockey fight at the opening, the one-liners, the over-the-top villains, the countless stereotypes, and the climax in the end. And also the Bat credit card. What?
Oh, you.
It would take forever to take on the unnecessary stuff they put in. There was no need for mad scientists, there was no need for Bane, there was no need for a motorcycle race, and certainly there was no need for a Bat credit card, one thing's for sure.
So let's see how Joel Schumacher defends this movie. Tell us, how did you justify this atrocity of abomination?
If there's anybody watching this that, let's say, loved Batman Forever and went into Batman and Robin with great anticipation, if I disappointed them in any way, then I really want to apologize, because it wasn't my intention. My intention was just to entertain them.
Wow. That was very nice. I mean, who does that? I mean, what director these days opens up publicly that their movie sucks? Man, this guy's something else. Yeah, he's pretty cool. So, what does it say about Joel in this movie?
From the reaction I've seen in most fans, many seem to have taken a deep breath and made peace with Joel and this movie. Now, it's still pretty bad, but as the years have gone by, it has evolved into so bad that it's so good. What was once a despised movie that nobody wanted to experience again, now they can go back to poke fun of what were they thinking this was a good idea. The odd choices they made that were obviously a red flag, now fans can have a guilty pleasure on it. You can make fun of the campy dialogue, you can make fun of the ice puns. My favorite when he breaks into a party and everyone is yelling and screaming and he comes out telling everyone to chill while freezing them all. You can make fun of the bat nipples, which honestly, I never found it a big deal. Yeah, it can be distracting, but not as much as the bat asses. Probably it's not the best thing to see a movie for how bad it is, but hey, at least it's better than nothing. And it's not that Joel is a bad director, because I've seen a few movies of his that I've enjoyed. Plus, the scenes with Alfred and Bruce, they were very nice and emotionally connecting. But I guess that might just hurt it even more when you have a non-major character that's more interesting than the main actors. With all that said, this movie has a special place in cinema as a warning for what not to do. The product should never take over the movie, but the other way around. If there's something good that came out of it, is that now the studios try harder to make better comic book movies and not repeat the same mistakes as this one. Not all of them paid off, but they had their baby steps. So if it wasn't for this, there wouldn't be this. If you can sit through for how unintentionally funny this movie is, good for you. Personally, I'd much rather sit through Tommy Lee Jones again than this one. Apology accepted, Joel, but let's not forget one thing. Batman and Robin will forever be a bat bomb. I give it 2 out of 10 stars.
So that's it. Those were my thoughts on Batman and Robin. What do you thought about the movie? Did you like it? Let me emphasize that again. What part of it did you laugh the most? Put it again. If you liked the movie, you can comment down below and say why did you like it and what part of it did you like the most. So that ends it for today. So stay tuned for more Batman and Superman reviews, because the date for the big one is soon to come. That's it for today. Ciao.